Interface Video, in cooperation with Fairfield Federal, presents Fairfield Today. Brought to you by Fairfield Federal Savings and Loan, Fairfield Medical Center, Fair Hope Hospice and Palliative Care, the Frankie Smith Funeral Home, Fairfield County Adam H., Dagger Law, and the Fairfield County Board of Developmental Disabilities.
Hello friends, and welcome to Fairfield Today. I'm Paul Jasson, your host. Thank you for joining us as we are again fortunate to be downtown in the lobby of Fairfield Federal. You know, for so long, when the world kind of collapsed in March, everything was done, including this show. And just a month or so ago, a couple of months ago, we finally got things up and running again. We did several of the broadcasts out at the Interface Video Studios on West Fair, but then as things continued to open up a little bit, finally the banks got open and we were able to get back here in the lobby, so we're pleased to be downtown in the lobby again of Fairfield Federal. Our first show today, and we talk about back in March, and again I preface that, any show I do since I've come back on is how has the pandemic affected you, because there is no show that we do where there isn't an effect somehow, and the one we'll talk about right now certainly was affected by that. Some of the places hit very hard were the nonprofit places, and we might be thinking of the places in town like the Georgian or the Decorative Arts Center or any of those places. One was the Glass Museum, and that's the one we'll talk about today, the Ohio Glass Museum. We have the board president, Mike Shook, with us. Mike, first of all, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Paul, for having us.
And I'm not overstating anything that nonprofits hit pretty hard when this hit back in March. And actually, when this happened mid-March, it was right on the cusp of you with the big event coming the end of the week that did not occur.
Absolutely. It started actually, we've had a banner year in 2019. Financially, were on very firm footing coming out of 2019 and roaring into 2020 with the great event we had downtown for the New Year's Eve celebration.
Fabulous.
And we had some energy, we had momentum, we had the community spirit behind us, and we just were looking for a great year. And things were going in that direction, and we had planned a new exhibit, which was to open on March the 17th with a gala. We have usually 100 folks or so in the gallery, kind of celebrating that event.
Kick off everything, big day.
Yeah, and it was a fun and exciting exhibit that we were introducing, and things just really started to deteriorate very quickly.
It was just that week then, like Monday or Tuesday.
Absolutely.
I think Tuesday was our show, and we canceled that week, middle of March, and then from that on it just went downhill.
Yeah, Thursday afternoon with things, as I say, were declining rapidly, and in the best interest of our public and our guests and our patrons and members of the museum, we said we've got to cancel this.
Sure. Tough call as you look back. I mean, it was back then almost nobody had made any of those calls by then. Things weren't being canceled. So it was a difficult call, but now in hindsight, absolutely the right one to make.
It was the right decision that we made, as tough as it was. As with any business, and certainly nonprofits are not any different than any other business, but people coming through the door, those admissions, purchasing, and we have a wonderful gift shop and a great selection of handmade glass in our studio. And when that goes away, our revenue stream just stopped cold.
Mm-hmm. So around the middle of March, like 3 months ago, or 4 months ago maybe now, when this all happened for you, what events had you had to cancel between then and now?
Well, the biggest thing that we had to suspend rather than an event was our ongoing offering of glass blowing classes.
Yeah.
Our glass artists in our studio.
Hard to wear a mask doing that.
We were it's hard to do a mask. It's the proximity of the 6 foot social distancing is not it can't be in play. So that made it extremely difficult, and again, that was an important piece of our revenue stream, is having those classes. And we were booked. I mean, we had classes booked out into September back in March. People planning their summer vacations coming into the museum for that purpose. And sadly, we had to suspend that. And we still haven't resumed that, and it's going to be some time before we do.
So now 4 months later, we're into this, and so many people back there in March, April, May, those times, a lot of events were either canceled or they were postponed and pushed back to what they sure would things would be better in, say, August or September.
Right.
Well, we're closing in on those dates now, and in many cases they're not a lot better, and in some cases you can't have some of these events because you still can't have those amount of people in a room like you'd like to have, or like some of the other, especially nonprofits, would like to have. So have you started to kind of gear back up now to get things moving?
We had a major event, part of our strategic plan for 2020 was to have somewhat of a wow kind of an event. We had begun and had ongoing discussions with the mill to have a major fundraiser.
Wonderful place to have that.
It is, and they were being very supportive and cooperative in helping us try to manage and put together that event. And again, unfortunately, that was going to be a huge part of our 2020 fundraising campaign, was this event. We are still considering having events, but right now, certainly we're being very cautious and very guarded about what kind of plans we can still think about it. We're still talking about, but putting a date on the calendar and saying this is it at this point, we just don't.
Well, even a week or so ago, a couple of weeks ago, the governor came out and kind of put the lid on it again, kind of pulled things back, as that's the case around the country. I'm not sure this is the second wave. It might be just a continuation of the first wave. But in some cases, instead of things getting better, maybe they're tightening up a little bit. Now we're hoping he doesn't come out and start to shut things down again in terms of businesses or nonprofits or school or anything that would be planned into the fall. But gosh, at this point, it's hard probably to do much because you really don't have a crystal ball as to what will happen.
Yeah, there's a crystal ball is pretty cloudy right now.
Well,
yeah, but
even at the Glass Museum, huh?
Yeah, for sure, figuratively and literally. But no, we were certainly looking forward to our next exhibit, which normally would have been in play or would have been debuted in September. And we, like I said, we had a great exhibit. We have a great exhibit on display which was to debut in March, and we've now extended with the delay in seeing that exhibit. We've moved it out until March or February of next year. Yeah. Because our next exhibits, normally our cycle is March and September for new exhibits, and so we've delayed our next exhibit, which would have been early mid-September. That now has moved out to March. But I'll tell you what, through the pandemic, it's given the museum a block of time there to do some housekeeping and taking care of some business. And it also allowed us to implement and install, and it's actually very timely, self-guided tours. We have now a system of iPads located throughout the museum, which touch screen sensitive, that will guide you through the museum and provide as much information as they would have gotten if it was a guided tour by a docent or a volunteer. And that's the other thing that we've experienced, as again, I'm sure many other businesses and museums, volunteers. And volunteers usually tend to be older people, and there's that sense of vulnerability with their
comorbidities.
Health. Yes. So some of our volunteers have opted not to come back, at least for now, and may not come back at all until this is clearly passed or until there's a vaccine. But nevertheless, this has given us an opportunity to do those kind of things in the museum. We've made some physical changes. We've introduced a new display of glass, the Degenhardt collection of glass, which was a company that ceased to exist a few years ago, and now we're owners of part of their archive, and we moved that up into the main gallery area, and enjoying a great response to that.
Guest is Mike Shook. Mike is the president of the board of directors of the Ohio Glass Museum, and I hear that more and more with guests I have on who are, for the most part, affected more or less by the pandemic. Is in some cases it's given that business or that nonprofit or whatever it is an opportunity to kind of take a step back and maybe get some things done where in the day-to-day hectic life of the Glass Museum you don't think you have time to do all that. You can't shut it down to do all that.
Exactly.
So you've made some changes, you've made some corrections, you've made some adjustments there, and you're open now?
Yes, we are.
And what are the hours now?
We're open, the gift shop's open daily, Tuesday through Saturday, 12 to 4.
Okay.
And then on Tuesday through Sunday, the gift shop will open at 1, and the museum gallery opens at 1.
Okay.
So 1 to 4 daily for the museum.
Masks required?
Masks are required. We have hand sanitizing stations. We offer rubber or vinyl
Latex.
gloves
Yep.
for our guests to wear if they've inclined. We've made every attempt to keep the museum sterilized after every tour. We go through with the touchpad, the iPads. We wipe those down, and all common areas, doorknobs and such, all of those areas we're taking the steps that we must.
So I guess if somebody's interested in coming down, you've given them the hours nicely there, but might just check on your website to see updates, because things have a way, we know, of changing almost day to day.
And since we're not offering glass blowing demonstrations as part of our tour, we've reduced our admission fees by $1.
Okay.
And in our gift shop, to try to encourage folks to come out and incent them to come visit with us. Many of our products in our gift shop have been discounted,
Nice.
25 to 30%.
Sure. Good chance to go. The Ohio Glass Museum, you can put your search engine on that. What's your website again?
Yeah, it's the OhioGlassMuseum.org.
Everyone knows that, OhioGlassMuseum.org.
I have a hard time remembering my own phone number sometimes.
Mike Shook, president of the board with the Ohio Glass Museum. Best of luck as things kind of regroup and restart and we get things going. We'll get you back on as we move throughout the year, and we'll just get an update on how it's going. What's your phone number down there? Give us that too.
It's 740-687-0101.
Got a nice brochure for folks?
We got a great brochure. We got a great exhibit. Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. I think you'll find it.
They should have a movie named that.
Yeah, Hollywood hasn't contacted us about that. But,
Mike Shook with the Ohio Glass Museum. Mike, best of luck as we move through.
Thank you, Paul, for having us today.
Get them reopened and get them re-going.
We're up and running. Okay. We look forward to seeing everybody out there.
Very good. Thank you, Mike. We'll be back to talk about the Lancaster City Schools in just a moment.
Fairfield Federal. When it comes to our customers and our community, we go above and beyond to help. Our people make the difference.
It's a hometown bank. It's located here in Fairfield County. Branches are convenient. They're located here in Pickerington, where my office is. I'm in Lancaster a lot, and they have plenty of branches there. And I much prefer dealing with the hometown banks rather than the larger nationwide chain banks.
So far, everybody's been so personable, and for us to bank with the local bank, and we bank in Lancaster, it's been so wonderful because we'll call somebody, Steve will call somebody, and they'll get back to us right away, or they'll say, okay, we're going to make a decision in the basement tomorrow, and they'll get back to us, rather than calling a bigger bank where we had to wait and we didn't always get the same person the next time we called for a investment banking opportunity, or getting something appraised, any of those kind of things.
Everybody is very customer friendly. A lot of times I'll bring my dog Bear with me, and the staff love him here, and of course he loves them and the treats that he gets. So it's just a nice kind of a family type environment.
Personal or business banking, whatever you need, we take it seriously because we know you do. Stop by today at any of our 3 locations and see why the difference is clear. Fairfield Federal Savings and Loan specializes in banking that revolves around you.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Welcome back to Fairfield Today. Thank the good folks here at Fairfield Federal. And as we talk about, again, Mike Shook and the show we'll have on now about Lancaster High School, everything really is all about the pandemic. And that really affects Fairfield Federal too. This is their 125th year, their quasquicentennial. They had all kind of great plans for just big events and things going on. 125 years, certainly a landmark here in Lancaster and Fairfield County. Well, so much of that has come to not happen as the whole world kind of back in March kind of shut down a little bit. And so they're kind of reopening now. It's still going on. Go on their website, fairfieldfederal.com. They've still got some neat things going on there. A nice contest where they have some money to give away to nonprofits. You can make a vote on there, and I'd encourage you to look that up. They're still going strong, but some of the plans have been cut back, of course. It's fairfieldfederal.com. And if there's one thing we know about anything about the pandemic, it's all about the children. We can't hear that enough. And somebody to tell us that it's all about the children would be the principal of Lancaster High School, Scott Burre. Scott, welcome.
Hey, glad to be here. Talk about Lancaster High School, Lancaster City Schools, the town of Lancaster, anytime, anywhere, any place.
You're ready to go.
Under any circumstances.
And these are circumstances we're under. We were talking before we went on, and last March, right before all this happened, Steve Poston, you're Ewing, buddy. When you were at Sherman, he was at Ewing, and a good friend of ours, of course, was able to give us a great tour of Thomas Ewing. What a fabulous school that was. This was late February, early March. I remember we went out there. This is great. Well, 2-3 weeks, maybe a month later, the wheels fall off, and from that point, it's never been the same. Certainly at Ewing, it's never been. At Lancaster City Schools, that's the case. As you think back to March, when all this was starting to collapse, what are your thoughts?
Well, I tell you what, the hardest part of this whole thing with Lancaster City Schools is we had so much positive momentum going. We opened up Thomas Ewing in January. We're opening up General Sherman in August. We're planning for a new Lancaster High School. Thomas Ewing's torn down. We're getting a new press box. We just turfed our field. We're have new elementary schools. I mean, positive momentum. Things were really going. And honestly, we were looking to a great spring. We had an outstanding senior class of 2020, and the spring was really set to culminate that. And I was excited. 3 years ago when I took over the job, it took me about a semester to realize that this class was really special. And I couldn't wait.
They were sophomores when you took over?
They were sophomores. And of course, I spent some time with juniors and seniors when I first got there. So then I start taking note of the sophomores. And about semester time, I thought, this group can be special. And I was really looking forward to the spring. Looking forward, our baseball and softball teams were, looking to defend the OCC title for the third year in a row. And, our track and our tennis, and, you got prom, and, and then the talk about graduation. I mean, all that stuff. I mean, I was excited personally for these kids, and I know they were as well. And to end the year how we did was really frustrating for a lot of people. But I tell you what, our kids, our staff, our parents, this community came together and made them feel important, made them feel that what they did was all worth it. And here we are, and we're starting to talk about next school year, and with some uncertainties as of today.
Well, we'll put a final tail on this from the spring. So many businesses, so many nonprofits, so many businesses out of business, don't come back. But I honestly think the people I felt the worst for were young people who were seniors, who deserved their day to walk across that stage, shake your hand, shake Steve Wigton's hand, job well done, a prom, a baseball season, a track and field season. I mean, I felt so badly for the girls that didn't get to buy their prom dresses, that didn't get to have the big prom. As somebody that's as close to these young people as you, That has to really tug at you.
Yeah, there was some, some trying times and days for everybody, me included in that spring. And, but we tried the best we could to send these kids out right. And, our graduation ceremony that we had a little video that was done really well by IVP. So give them a lot of credit there. And, then we had a drive-through diploma pickup, which turned out really good. One, it was 60-some degrees, beautiful day. And we were able to talk, I was able kind of at the end as the cars came through to talk to just about every single graduate and their family, which we don't get at a normal graduation. So there's some things that we actually liked, how the year ended and how graduation was and what parents and kids liked about it. So we got some good things that in any of these things, you look for the silver lining. And we had a parade come through in the spring down the lane. I mean, it's things we've never done before. So maybe this is something that we've set some new traditions. We can look back and thank the class of 2020 as far as how they handled that. And I printed this email off. I wanted to share this. What we're talking about last year, but we go to remote learning for a whole quarter. You're thinking, is that a waste of education? We finished up with over about 250 kids earning college credit in over 800 total courses. When you talk about AP and CCP, College Credit Plus, these students earned over 2,000 credit hours.
Really?
So,
remotely?
Through the year and finishing remotely.
Finishing up
Absolutely.
remotely.
And a lot of those classes with CCP, college classes, were taken on our campus. So give the kids tremendous credit. And 2,000 credit hours, these kids don't have to pay for. Yeah. They're leaving Lancaster High School with credit. So there were some really good things that came out of the school year that we're really proud of.
So you go through the spring, it goes to remote learning, that's where it's going. That finishes up, as we talk about, it ends early in the summer, May, whenever that was. And so now you've gone through the summer, really up in the air, I'm sure, the plans, because here we are almost August, which is the month that school will be starting again. And in some cases, we don't have much of an idea what's going to go on, because what level will this county may determine what will happen to schools. Most people feel you could either be completely back, not back at all, or a hybrid of both. And somewhere in there, Lancaster finds themselves.
Yeah, we have the same plans as pretty much every school around. Like you said, we're either all in, half in, or not in. As of today, if you looked at what the county is, we'd be in a hybrid model.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit different that we haven't done before. So that's where a lot of our planning is going. Mm-hmm. Mr. Wigton did share our plan, our overview of the plan last week to the community. So now we're working of what that looks like at Lancaster High School. We're working through the last couple of days to find details. There's going to be some more information coming, more detailed information coming. What all that stuff is going to look like at Lancaster High School as well as the other buildings. So this summer has definitely been unique for us. Some of it's been sit and wait. We don't want to plan too much and for something that, so we're just kind of at a hold tight pattern, but now we got a little bit of direction to go to, and, we're going to work and, we're going to do the best we can to provide our kids the best educational setting, the best social emotional setting, the best we can. And hopefully at some point before this school year ends, there is some end to this and we can get back to what can look somewhat normal. Although I'm not sure schools will ever look the same as they did March 11th.
Yeah. Well, I even think about football's practicing now. You were a football player. You understand that. You wonder what that will look like come the fall.
Oh, that's football all around. NFL, college, high
Everybody.
School, down to rec
Big
football.
question mark.
Well, and when you ask students, a lot of students, their best memories from their high school, and it's football Friday nights, whether they played in it, whether they're a cheerleader, whether they're in the band, or most of it is with their friends in the student section. And that's a lot of looking back of what their good memories are, and that's something that we could definitely hope we can provide.
So really everything it's not on hold, but I would think now, and I had Steve Wigton on early on when we started back to talk about kind of how things were going to look at graduation. It was pre-graduation. We'll have him on here in another couple of weeks, but I think it's been a real advantage now. You've had months to look at what remote learning looks like. You've had to see it. If you had to assess it, your feeling is it went better than it could have been.
At times, yes. Some kids did better in remote than they did at school. Some kids who do really well at school didn't do well remotely. No. So we're trying to look at all those ways of how we can get expectations to our students, our families, and teachers of what it needs to look like to be successful. So we've got some last spring with some trial by air, and now we'll hopefully have a good plan.
How have the attitudes, just the psyche of your teachers been? How do you think they've handled all this?
Teachers are planners. The unknown is frustrating. So some of them are digging in and preparing for this, and some are just kind of, as we are, we got to sit back and wait. You don't want to do too much. So it's tough. Our teachers have their own kids as well. They're dealing with at home, and as I do, I have my own kids and that have struggled at times with this. They're getting bored at the house, but we're like anything else. We try and.
If you had a crystal ball, would you say it's better for kids, even with the pandemic, to put them back in school now? Do you think they're hurt? And you're talking about high school kids who are dealing with you, but grade school kids. You think it would be better overall for the kids to be in school, to face that, because being at home is so difficult.
If it's done in a safe manner, the social emotional piece of being in a school building for all ages of kids, in my opinion, it's important.
Scott Burre, principal at Lancaster High School. Got a couple minutes left. We're going to end with this. As you talk about Lancaster City Schools, all the momentum in the world. New Ewing opening up. The old one was going to be gone. Sherman was going to be opening up here in another month or so. It's just going to be an amazing time. High schools out there, planning is going on. Thomas Ewing is now gone, the old Thomas Ewing. You're a Sherman boy. Was Steve Poston a Sherman boy?
He was.
He was. I was a Sherman boy.
Sure.
Very, very proud to be a West Sider. I have sent the picture of Ewing being torn down to many of my Ewing friends that I was in school, and I said, it never looked better. 60 years I've waited to see that school torn down. And I will say that some of my friends, I'll call them that, they sent a thing back and says, did a bunch of your Sherman thugs come over and tear that school up? Is that what happened?
Well, it's amazing now that I'm the principal at Lancaster High School how much I root for Thomas Ewing as well as Sherman.
Things change.
4 years ago, I would have been right there with you.
Maybe not.
But
we've had a lot of fun with that, and now Sherman, of course, like you say, you don't get a kind of close Sherman out like you did Ewing. You don't get a grand opening for that. But whatever the new normal is, whatever that is, that's where we're going to be in the fall.
And we're going to make the best we can because, I love this district. It's done a lot for me, and I want it to do for the kids of the future as well. And we're not going anywhere, and we're going to keep plugging along.
Well, Lancaster High School has found themselves in a great position to be in when all this hit. So much of this, had it been a couple years ago, it would have been perhaps more chaotic, but we've got the new Ewing, we'll have the new Sherman, high school's on the planning stages here, we'll see that in a few years, so we're very confident that things will keep moving forward in the best foot. Thanks for all you do for the young people at Lancaster High School, Mr. Wigton, Steve Poston, everybody there. We're in good hands. Thanks for what you do.
There's good people. I appreciate being on and anytime, and stay safe out there and enjoy the rest of what's left of summer.
Whatever it is, we'll be back in whatever it is the fall. We'll see however that is. Scott Burre with Lancaster High School. Appreciate him being on with us, and we thank you for joining us on Fairfield Today.
Interface Video, in cooperation with Fairfield Federal, presents Fairfield Today. Brought to you by Fairfield Federal Savings and Loan, Fairfield Medical Center, Fair Hope Hospice and Palliative Care, the Frankie Smith Funeral Home, Fairfield County Adam H., Dagger Law, and the Fairfield County Board of Developmental Disabilities.